This is Radar from the Radar Entertainment blog coming at you with another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation number 173. So it's been a while, but this time, so many. First movie I watched was called Yakuza Princess, and I watched it with another person, and we both were like, what the heck is going on? This is stupid, it makes no sense, the dude in the hospital bed, if he's helping her or not. Of course, emergency vehicles. And, then some Asian dude was helping her, and there was like naked guys in robes, and there was just a lot of violence and death. This movie just made absolutely no sense, and I was asleep through a lot of it. But if another person was in the room with me and they don't know what's going on, even with reading subtitles, and I went back and rewatched parts of it, it still is a bad movie, and I don't understand why it was made in the first place. It's way too long, also being an hour and 15 minutes with credits. Next movie I watched was Beta Test, and it's like, well, the director and the producers and the writers are some of the two dudes in the movie, and maybe it's a satire making fun of stuff in that, industry of like marketing and business and all this other stuff, and him, it was just really stupid. He was like, I had the sexual encounter, I don't want my wife to know, and he's so obsessed about it. I just thought it was stupid, like really dumb and stupid, but apparently critics and Rotten Tomato, non-critics liked it. I just don't get it. Maybe I didn't understand the movie because I just think the writing was bad. So then I watched Zero Contact, and that whole reason for Zero Contact was they're like, we filmed everything remotely, and none of the people on set interacted with each other. So everything's over Zoom or remote, and like security cameras, and it's not actually all being there. And Anthony Hopkins supposedly played this genius who died, and he has left this company and this program that's going to try to take over the earth, and he's got a long-lost son. And the dude here on the cover with the beard, he's always like a henchman or something in movies I've seen, so it was interesting to see him. I think there was a guy from 30 Rock, I forgot what his name, but he was one of the black guys on 30 Rock, and it just was really stupid just to hear all these people bickering over Zoom about should they do this protocol and this AI inviting them to it and people dying. And all. It was like, wow, we get the point that you filmed this all remotely, but Zero Contact, no one should make contact with this movie. It's horrible. Then I saw the movie Broadcast Signal Intrusion with Harry Shum Jr., and I'm going to tell you this. He really got into the role, but it was like, let's have this take place in like the 90s, 2000s, where he's still obsessed with his wife dying and he wasn't there when it happened. And he's super obsessed about it, and he like reaches out to like people because he's in the broadcast industry, and it was kind of cool that it's filmed in Chicago. I see him on the train, all the landmarks. But somehow, while he's working on something, he sees like a signal intrusion on a few broadcast things that he's editing, and he's thinking that has to do with his wife's death because supposedly it happened on one of the days, and people went missing, or girls went missing, and you got like a journalist, and you got the FBI and the FCC to look into it, and then some crazy dude on the street who looked into it. Then there was some woman he partnered with, which was confusing, and then they tracked down this dude, and it was like, oh my God, I know who that is. That's Chris Sullivan. That's Toby from This Is Us. But he was playing a weirdo creepo. And it was just like, okay, some good actors in this movie, but it's like really dumb and stupid. And then he wasn't the bad guy. There's someone else that he found that he was beating them to death. I don't know. I give him credit, Harry Shum. He really put himself in this movie, but it was, I don't know, just really poorly executed. Then I watched the movie Clean after I fasted. And I was like, well, I guess I know why they call it Clean, because he's the garbage man. He's cleaning up. Like, okay, that was really stupid. And lucky that it was like a barely 9-minute movie, but this movie has RZA the rapper in there. And then there's this like character actor, I forgot his name, but he was like his sponsor. He's a barber. And it was like, so there's some good things. But it was so confusing to figure out like what his previous job was, except for they said he went to prison, so he's done time. He's in AAA, so he's probably had issues with drugs and alcohol. And how his daughter disappeared, and how this girl he thinks is like his daughter, and he's trying to protect her, and then he gets involved with these bad guys. And I'll tell you this, the bad guy is that big fat bully from Boy Meets World, and I was just like, oh yeah, that guy. He was in Friday Night Lights and all these other movies and stuff, and he's famous for losing a lot of weight. And yeah. He was like the henchman for Harvey in the thing, because we could tell how, he's also, I think My Name is Earl as well. Ethan Suplee. So he was like the bad guy in a way, and his son was somehow involved in the drug game that he's involved in, and that's why the girl that Adrian Brody thinks is involved, and like Adrian Brody looked like a homeless guy, and but of course he lives in like a shack or shed, and he works as a garbage man. But then like, yeah, we'll give him a haircut and a little shave, and it'll look different. And I was just like, I don't really think his character really fully explained his background, how he could kill all these other guys, and apparently he was like a gun for hire or whatever, so that's how he's taking down every single bad guy that comes his way. And the guy from Boy Meets World, who's the mobster dude, didn't realize this dude is all this stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's whatever. Then the best movie I watched was Boss Level with Frank Grillo, anti-Semite Mel Gibson, Naomi Watts, Michelle Yeoh, and a few other good actors like Will Sasso was a henchman, Ken Jeong was supporting cast, and it was really cool to see one of the sons from the neighborhood, whatever his name is. I was like, he's Marcus in the neighborhood, but it was cool because this movie is similar to Groundhog's Day and that Live, Die, Repeat movie with Tom Cruise, where he's literally all these assassins of all different, looks and everything are all attacking him, and he's been living the same thing over and over, and he's getting wise how to defeat these guys, where to go into that diner that Ken Jeong's a bartender at, or the manager, and the guy from the neighborhood also works there, and he's realizing that every single thing in the movie is key. Naomi Watts is like his baby mama. Michelle Yeoh is someone that helps him train him. Mel Gibson's apparently his ex-wife's boss, and his dialogue was stupid, but there's a lot of action. It was really cool how we handled this movie and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was the best movie I watched. Definitely worth the time. Then I was really interested in watching Project Gemini, but apparently this Russian dub movie, the acting and the talking was so stale that it took away from the small aliens the small amount of time that aliens were actually on the screen, and the science fiction behind, well, every movie does it, where we're in a post-apocalyptic world where we have to go repopulate elsewhere. Either the ship crashes and there's some monster attacking it and all hell breaks loose, or they get to the planet and all hell breaks loose. In this movie, they got to the wrong place. Hell broke loose on this planet, even though it was the wrong planet to terraform, and there's aliens on there and stuff. And yeah, so science fiction, the special effects, and the aliens were pretty good for this Russian movie. But just the dialogue with the flashbacks and the soap opera just really took away from me enjoying this movie, and I thought it was going to be good. It was not. Disappointing. Then I watched The Requiem, which is basically, Lisa Silverstone and her husband go to the Philippines, or I don't know, was it Vietnam, on a trip, and of course, like, some waves happen and they get drifted out to sea, and he gets injured, and there's sharks and all this other stuff, and they're trying to survive. And obviously, the only thing that's going to happen in this horror film with sharks is either no one's going to survive or one person survives, and of course it was her. So it really clear to see what this movie, where it was going to go and what's going to happen. It was barely 90 minutes. Then I saw the movie Zone 414 with Guy Pearce, and I thought it was going to be a good movie. And it's a movie where there's supposedly these AIs that live in a town called Zone 14, and they're city of robots. But somehow, the guy who makes the robots, his daughter goes missing because she's in that town, so he hires Guy Pearce, who's a former cop and guy in the military, to track down a missing daughter. Then he starts working with one of the AIs who thinks that they're like human together, and it's weird. There's like the woman in charge of the AIs, and then Colin Salmon was in the movie for 2 minutes, the guy from Arrow and Limitless. I thought it was cool to see him, but he was playing some weird perverted guy trying to buy these AIs. And again, it was just like, the daughter was found and dead in the first 30, 40 minutes. I'm like, what's the point of the rest of this movie? Is he trying to expose the guy who created the stuff and all this other things? It just was just dumb. It wasn't really that much to go on once he found the daughter. So I'm like, the movie should have ended already, and he should have just stayed out of it. So I was like, it was okay. Again, it's a futuristic world where you got AIs that people are sleeping with. Then I saw Vengeance is Mine, and I watched it because it says it's in 79 minutes. It was probably 80-something minutes. But it was basically this dude who looks like he's a mess. He's living in a church, and he still can't come over the fact that his wife and daughter were killed because supposedly it was bank robbers who ran him over. And then he finally gets help on figuring out who the bank robbers were, and he's on a revenge mission. And yeah, the whole movie is him trying to take down all these people that were the robbers in the movie. And you really could tell that, well, either he's going to die or he's going to kill all those guys and get revenge. And there's only really one way, or I said, only one or two ways for this movie to go. And it was just this, the drama was stale, the flashbacks were stale. His on-screen chemistry with the woman who also works at the church just did not really fit or whatever, so I don't know. Then the last movie I watched was Legend of La Llorona, and the saving grace was barely 99 minutes. It was like close to 90-ish minutes, like, 92, 93, 94, and it had Danny Trejo in there, and he's trying to help them and save them and stuff, but I've seen a movie like this before where she takes kids before. So not the first La Llorona movie I watched in like 3-4 years. And this couple's mourning the loss of a baby dying and stuff. And their kid gets taken. But it's way too much of a coincidence that the house that they're staying in, the woman also lost her daughter. And she's also related to La Llorona. And supposedly this woman was adopted. She's also somehow related. Just way too much coincidence. And the dialogue was stupid. The person I was with was watching like the Spanish seems really stupid. Like simple what they're doing, like translated to English, that they took the English translated to Spanish. It was just really dumb. The only saving graces are Danny Trejo trying to save the day and not her dumb husband who was literally doing nothing. So, yep, a whole bag of nothing. Do not watch Vengeance is Mine. Only watch Zone 414 if you're obsessed with every Guy Pearce movie. Only watch The Requiem if you're obsessed with Alicia Silverstone, because that was a waste. Project Gemini, maybe I should watch the Russian version and maybe just put subtitles on it. Maybe it'll seem better. I don't know. Unless you're obsessed with Agent Brody, don't watch Clean. And only watch Harry Shum Jr. if you're obsessed with him in Broadcast Signal Intrusion. Do not waste your time with Zero Contact. Do not watch Beta Test, even if the critics say it's good. And if you do, maybe you'll understand and I won't. Definitely don't waste your time watching Yakuza Princess. I wouldn't watch Legend of La Llorona unless you love Danny Trejo. I would only really suggest watching Frank Grillo in Boss Level. Thanks again for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews Observation number 173. Found the Radar Table Blog. I'm Radar. See you guys next time.